We're talking about the decision by former Chief Justice of the Canadian Supreme Court, Beverly McLachlin, to re-accept an appointment on the Hong Kong Court of Final Appeal. Professor Cohen, there have been judges, other foreign judges, who did not accept these appointments to the Hong Kong court. What can you tell me about their resignations? Like, was it because of the national security law? And have they spoken out publicly about their decision?
They've generally been discreet. The Australian judge who withdrew said it was because of the national security law, but I have never seen him give any elaboration of that. The English Lady Hale, who recently withdrew, she made it clear that she was doing it for reasons of personal convenience. It's a long trip from London to Hong Kong. On the other hand, I just read today that she also said she was sure that at least commercial cases in Hong Kong were being well independently handled. That raises the whole question of the dual legal system, a dictatorial one for security and sensitive cases, and a democratic rule of law, liberal one for conventional commercial cases.
Now, I want to turn to Professor Alford for a minute, because there has been a lot of criticism of McLachlin's decision to remain on this court. And there was even a motion at the Law Society of Ontario, I think you were involved in this motion, to have her decision condemned. What can you tell me about that, about general criticism, and what you think that motion might have achieved?
Well, I think it's calling attention to the fact, as Professor Cohen noted, that China is attempting to have it both ways. They're trying to say that with respect to commercial disputes, contract disputes, you're going to have the benefit of this common law system and top quality adjudication. But at the same time, by being there and operating in that role, it's giving people the impression worldwide that when it comes to national security, when it comes to criminal law, that Hong Kong will not become a totalitarian liberal order. And there's a quote I'd like to give you. Islands on which the rule of law prevailed were left amid an ocean of lawlessness, reassuring preserves in which traditional ideas of order continued apparently undisputed. And this made it harder to address the legality or illegality of the regime and to decide whether to support or oppose it. This is describing the German courts of the 1930s and the works of Joachim Fest. So this is the problem, is that in showing people that while there is some legality in Hong Kong, in certain types of cases, it makes it harder for people to actually grasp the growing totalitarian takeover of the city.
Professor Cohen, you've questioned whether foreign judges should continue to serve on the Hong Kong court at all. Can you explain what your concerns are and what role you think they're serving?
At first, for some years, until the national security law was promulgated, I supported the non-permanent foreign judges staying on the Court of Final Appeal. But in the last 2 years, it's become clear their staying on the court misleads the public, as Professor Alford has indicated. It gives the impression that all is right with the world. The most that any of them has said is the recent English judge who said, largely, the court is independent of the government, largely, and he didn't give any elaboration. But the question is, what is that? The judges, instead of making generalizations and abstractions, the foreign non-permanent judges should be asking questions like, how are judges now being appointed in Hong Kong? What are the processes? What are the criteria? Who are the personnel that decide about appointments? Why is the jury trial abolished? What has happened to the privilege against self-incrimination? What has happened, of course, to the protection against antecedent behavior? What has happened to some of the most basic precepts? The presumption of innocence, the question of bail that Professor Alford mentioned. These are no longer basic concepts. Courts are not independent anymore. Their jurisdiction, their power has shrunk, even though their name continues to be used. And judges are under informal pressures. They're attacked daily in the Chinese and English language Beijing-controlled media. They are attacked by Beijing officials.